should let me love you forever, forever. I wanna love you. Will you let me love you forever, forever and a day, 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 day.
Woo!
Hello! Happy day after Memorial Day long weekend. We are here. I'm Linda. That's Abby. No, that's Abby. That's Abby over there. And this is the Melanated Way. We're covering all things 90 Day Fiance. As you guys know, we're catching up. So a lot of you are like already there, but we're getting there. But we are on season 11, episode 7, The Price of Love. And we will continue to catch up. And I know we usually do Mondays, but Monday was a holiday. And, you know, we had holiday things to do. Abby had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. And yeah, you want to say a little something, something?
You guys, I went to see Beyonce. And let me just say, I was not always a Beyonce fan. I watched an interview that she did shortly after she went solo, and she was saying, I love to do concerts. I look out over the audience and I'm changing people's lives. And I said, this bee is delusional. Whose life are you changing at a concert? And then I went to my first concert because I was a Jay-Z fan. My first time seeing her was On the Run because I was a Jay-Z fan. And I came out of that concert a Beyonce fan. And I've been a Beyonce fan ever since. She changed my life at a concert. True story. I had been afraid to publish something that I wrote. A friend of mine was an editor for Ebony at the time. And she kept asking me, do you want to publish? Do you want to publish? And I kept saying no. And then after the concert, I was like, I'm ready. Let's publish.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
So, yeah, I feel great. I've been on a high. I'm not depressed yet. You know, some people get like the post-Beyonce depression because you don't have it to look forward to anymore. But I feel great. I'm rejuvenated. Had a good time at the concert. Had a good time visiting friends in New York. So I'm glad that we both had rejuvenating, wonderful girl time weekends.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was exactly what I needed. I definitely, for me, it was a reset. And just being around really beautiful, positive women that are supportive and funny and strong and beautiful, y'all, beautiful friends, and just a great time. So yeah. That being said, let's just jump right into it. Listen, yes. Shekinah and Sarper, like I told you guys, has really just done it for me. He is so funny. He's so funny and like kind of like humble, but not. And I'm just loving everything about him this season. So they're at their 85-day to wed situation. And Shekinah has a client that's coming into, you know, her work-live situation. So Sarper's like has to leave the house because she doesn't want any male energy in there because, you know, her clients get like half naked, they put on a robe, and she just really wants to have that vibe. So she kicks him out. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. And so he's wandering the neighborhood. And when he said, I am part-time homeless, I know that's not a funny situation, and the homeless is something that I take care of and volunteer for and all that stuff. But the way he said it, Abby died after.
It was funny the way that he said it.
And then he is walking around the neighborhood, and you guys know that they're in North Hollywood. Even though they tried to trick us and they put a Venice sign in the back. I don't know if you guys caught that. They are nowhere in Venice. But he's like walking. He goes by a park. He does like a pull-up. Just all this random stuff. Like I'm walking the streets. Hey, Christina. Hey, girl. Hey. And hello, nurse. Who's nurse? Oh, no, I don't get it. Is that you?
Oh, I thought it was an inside joke you guys had because Christina's been around for a while.
No,
we're not completely there. There's probably something that we're supposed to know that we don't know yet.
yeah, I literally landed this morning, you guys. I just got back this morning. So I might still, I was telling Abby that I just might be in holiday mode still, and holiday fog. So he sits down on a park bench and his parents call. He talks to his parents, kind of gives them the lowdown on he's like outside because he can't be in the house. And part of Shekinah's issues with him is women, right? And the 90s reference. I still don't get it. I'm slow today, Christina. Sorry. um, do you know what she's talking about? Because I have no idea.
I know what Animaniacs is.
I don't.
They're zany, they're crazy, they're totally. It's a cartoon.
Oh.
But I'm not 100. Hello, nurse. I'm not. You know, I was a little bit more of a Looney Tunes watcher than an Animaniacs watcher. I just knew it existed. I'm so sorry, Christina.
Yeah, we love you anyways.
I'm so sorry.
Breaks my heart.
I'm so sorry.
So he's talking to his parents. Sarper's talking to his parents, and he gives. And you know, one of the things that I'm so happy about is that I'm not the only one that is terrible with sayings or sayings that make no sense, but they make sense to you. So he's trying to explain how part of Shekinah's insecurity is him and all the women in his past and the things that he's admitted to. And he's saying that he's not going to just F and go. And he compares it to the chicken or the egg. Did the chicken come from the egg or the egg from the chicken? It doesn't matter because all you're going to do is F and go. Listen, y'all. That made perfect sense to me. I don't know why, but I am going to incorporate it into my sayings.
It's a funny one. You can.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous, but it just makes sense to me. So he goes on to tell his parents about not being able to cook. Hey, Ray Della. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey.
Ray Della, I just want to tell you that your niece she's a G. She's like a girl's girl. And without telling you all the details, she went somewhere and sent me photos, and I was like, I have eyes everywhere. I'm not even in town, and I have eyes everywhere. And it made me so happy. So where am I? I'm like all over the place. I hope this makes
Sarper, you just finished. You're going to incorporate one of his statements.
I did. And then talks to his parents, tells you do know where. And listen, those photos, Ray Della, were like, she had her Zoom on. And I was like, thank you. His parents are like, I can't believe you can't cook in the house. And, that's not a good thing. All the things. And meanwhile, like they flash over to Shekinah's client, Jessica. And one of the things that is true that we do as women is that we share with our stylists, we share with therapists, we share with our nail techs, we share with all the people. And so Jessica was sharing how she went to a Hawaii solo trip, which I encourage all of y'all to do. I always encourage travel. We know Abby can't stay in place for 5 seconds, so she travels the most out of all of us. But I encourage that. Do that. So Jessica went to Hawaii, met a guy. And one of the things that I thought was crazy is that she's like, oh, yeah, I don't hook up and blah, blah, blah. But this time I made an exception. And long story short, I'll just say he was whiskey. And when she said that, again, died, because I feel like all of us have had or have been in that situation. If you haven't, you are a unicorn, because this is more prevalent than one knows. And it's something else that as women, we don't really talk about because, the male ego is very fragile. But the thing that I thought was hilarious is that she's not going to count it as a body count because she feels like nothing happened.
That makes perfect sense to me. If you're somebody who's still counting, like that makes perfect sense. But eventually you'll graduate to be somebody who doesn't even bother counting anymore. And not because of like the number's so high, because it doesn't matter.
I mean,
It doesn't matter.
so
Just
have
take care
fun,
of
live your
yourself.
life, y'all.
Yeah.
Live your life.
Just
But
be
I will
safe.
say this, I'm the worst when it comes to like things like that. Cause then I'm like, did I just waste my time? Because I'm already picky as it is. So like it was a poor choice. And then in my mind, I'm like racking my mind about all the things. But you know, you're only meeting people's representative. You don't know the mechanics of it all.
Yeah, you don't know, but they know, but they'll sit there and act like they don't know. So annoying. Annoying. You know what's even more annoying? Like one time, this guy, you see yourself every day, you know how big you are, had the nerve to buy magnums.
Listen, a man will lie to himself
Like,
the most.
what?
And then be offended when he's hit in the face with reality.
Exactly. Let's be more introspective.
We're going sideways quickly.
Okay, sorry. Let me stop.
Sarper talking to his mom, explaining how he can't even cook in the house. And the mom's like, that is not sustainable. It's not healthy to always eat out. And she can't understand, like, what do you mean you can't cook in your house? Which I also would not understand, right? Like, there's no way I'm eating out every single day. Like, that's just not, no. But a lot of people do that, you know? A lot of people just order in every day. They don't cook, period.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of people who live in really small apartments. And so that's what they choose to do. They
Yeah.
find it a little bit, especially if you're just one person and you refuse to eat leftovers. Some people just find that more economical.
Yeah. Let us know. I'm curious, do you guys, how often do you eat out? Once a week, every single day, 7 days a week, 4 times a week? Let me know. And if you eat out, do you go and dine in a restaurant or do you order in?
Mm-hmm.
That is the question of the day. So the other thing we find out about Sarper is that he's realizing that there are a lot of rules and boundaries that he feels like he wasn't told ahead of time before he moved. So he is going to hold on to his place. He's telling his parents, don't rent it out. Hold on to it, take care of it, and let's see what the next 85 days look like, which is interesting again to me because Abby has also explained that the 85 days is not the time that you get to know each other. It's the 85 days is the time that you are planning your wedding. So yes, you can back out at any time. That's your adult prerogative. But at the same time, you would think that you already are engaged. You already said, yes, this is what I want to do. And now you're using that 85 days to kind of pick at, oh, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. Well, what happened to the 3 years, the 2 years, the 1 year before? What were you
Right.
doing then?
Right. Too many people use it as the trial period, but I'm not going to complain a lot about that because otherwise we wouldn't have a show. But it's not technically a trial period. It's just a planning period. Her logic was, I didn't want to tell him. She kind of said, I didn't want to tell him beforehand because I didn't want to overwhelm him because he was already leaving his family. But that takes his choice away from him. That takes his ability to make a decision about whether or not he wants to move away from him. So I don't appreciate when people do that.
That and just give me all the information and let me make my own informed decision. If I'm not informed, I'm not making a proper decision. Is my voice going?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. There was a lot of laughing and talking this weekend. You guys got to excuse Linda.
A lot of shenanigans. And if you follow me on my personal page on Instagram and I start posting stuff that you're like, oh my God. Y'all, I posted this photo that is so not normally like me. And the next morning I woke up and like my boss had seen it, coworkers had seen it. I was like, oh my God. Because you guys know I'm super private, right? And so like I'm not gonna tell you what it was because if you missed it, you missed it and I'll feel better. But I'm like, oh Linda, I was in the streets, y'all. Just say that. I was in the streets from Thursday to at least 8 a.m. this morning. So anything you see for the next little while, just side eye it and keep it pushing. And on that note, Sharper is shaving. They're getting ready to go and meet Shekinah's friends. And he has that little, I have one of those where you have like this little pesky hair over
Mhm.
here. And he's using it to like groom. And Shekinah gets all like bent out of shape over it because her stuff is her stuff and she doesn't want him to use her stuff, and she's talking about like makeup and vanity and all the things, but I'm like, you guys are equally yoked in that sense. Do you know what I mean? Like they match in that sense, don't you think, Abby?
Mhm.
So like those things are like 50 cents.
Yeah, she just needs to buy him his own kit, his own little it's not a razor. I know what you're talking about. That's like a really thin one. And
Yeah,
get him his own highlighter. Take him to Sephora or Ulta and get his own concealer and highlighter and stuff so he's not in your brushes.
pick your battles.
Yeah.
That's not something that I would think is a big deal. Now when they use your $90 conditioner and what's it called, shampoo, when they don't have a lot of hair, that drives me crazy. Like, what? Use your cheap, crazy, whatever, all 4-in-1. Like, use that.
Back in the day when I used to keep Summer's Eve in the bathroom, I had a guy use it to bathe. Yeah, I was like, why wouldn't you read the bottle?
My ex fiance used to use the shampoo and conditioner that I had to order, and it literally, you guys, it was so expensive. It was like $100 a pop, and he was like bald. It's not bald. I'm lying. That's a lie. He had very short hair, and he would like, you know, when you pour, not even like a dab, he would pour that thing and it would drive me crazy because why is this half empty? Because as a black girl, we don't have to wash our hair every day, and so
No.
I know the levels.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, that would irritate. Was he conditioning his scalp too?
Yes, girl. Yes. What are you conditioning? Because he liked the smell of it.
No.
Rude. So, anywho, buy him his own stuff, problem solved. Now, I want to know what your thoughts on Dan are. So, Dan dated Shekinah back in the day. They're still friends. And I believe that men and women can be friends. However, speaking from personal experience, I think that if you're friends with an ex and there's unresolved issues, meaning one person still has feelings for the other, you have to be careful with those type of relationships, especially if you are in an exclusive relationship with someone else. I
Mhm.
think that it's hard to maintain those type of friendships and your boundaries without crossing a boundary, because the person that still has feelings for you is somehow going to pursue that in some way, shape, or form, even if that means just putting a wrench in your healthy relationship that you are in right now.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that Shekinah and Sarper are the, poster board of healthy relationship, but what I will say is they've come a long way. That
Mhm.
being said, Dan and Shekinah are still friends. He still has feelings for her, and he's made that known. And when this was my favorite part of the episode, because you see how someone can be a frenemy. You see how someone can be a hater. You see how someone can take digs at you, but be smiling in your face. And all of those things are something that you have to pay attention to, because sometimes the knife in your back is not coming from the enemy that expresses that they're your enemy. It's coming from the person that's smiling in your face.
Mhm.
And to me, Dan was that person. The other thing before I move on with that group, so it was Josh, Shauna, Wendy, Dan, and Alexandra. They all had the same look. I was like, included Shekinah. They all,
Botox face.
is that what it is? Is
Mhm.
it just Botox?
It's it's Botox face. You lose your ability to make micro expressions, and because so much of our communication is nonverbal, when you're faced with someone who has Botox face, it's very difficult to read how they're feeling, how they're receiving what you say, because there's so much Botox and filler.
Oh, I thought they all went to the same plastic surgeon. It was because they all, even the guys, like their lips and their eyebrows. I was like,
Hmm. Yeah. I had a friend whose mom used to say the like most evil stuff to her, like, but she would do it with a straight face. And I was younger, so I didn't understand what was going on. And then I got older and realized, oh, she has Botox in her face. That's why, like, she never has any expressions while she's being a evil bee to her daughter. I was like, this is really emotional what you're saying, and you're just like yammering it. And then like we won this competition, and she came to say congratulations, and her mouth stayed just like this.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and so I learned then it's Botox face. I would say that Dan actually is not Shekinah's friend. He doesn't intend to be her friend. He wants to be in a relationship with her so badly that he's not even trying to manage his own feelings. She has made a decision with what she wants to do with her life. He does not respect that, and he intends to be confrontational about it. So I don't think that he's her friend. And I don't know how much the other people are her friends either to keep him in the circle when he's openly disrespectful to her about her choices.
I think that you and I are saying the same thing. And to piggyback on your point, Alexandra, in my opinion, is the only person that stuck up for her. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and I will backtrack a little. Uh, Not only did she stick up for the friend group, but she stuck up for Sarper in her own halfway, right? So she didn't go full fledged, but she did say, hey, listen, obviously he loves her because he left his whole family, moved
Right.
across the way to be with her. So like, let's give him credit for that. So she did stick up a little bit, but
Hmm.
everyone else stood silent. And again, that's why I was telling you, like, what is a friend? Someone that smiles in your face, you call them a friend. I remember reading something a while ago on social media where, you know, let's normalize calling people acquaintances, co-workers,
Hmm.
neighbors, and
Hmm.
everyone is your friend. And that's
Correct.
something to really think about. And even in your friend circle, sometimes those people don't want the best for you. Sometimes your biggest enemy is someone that's in your close circle. They're smiling in your face, but they do not want goodwill for you, and that's unfortunate. And you have to be very wise to those type of people.
Hmm.
So that being said, Dan is like, so are you here for like 3 months? Like you're here for like 90 days? And everyone's looking at him like, what are you talking about? And like, are you getting married? Like, what's happening? Are you visiting for 90 days? And they're like, no, Sarper lives here now. He moved. And part of the moving process is they have to get married within 90 days because this is a K1 fiance visa. And he's like, oh, it sounds like you're getting married for convenience. And that it was the moment I was like, oh, this guy is a hater, straight hating, but he's doing it with a smile on his face. And he's doing it at first, you guys, very calm and matter of factly, and then he started to get in his own feelings.
Hmm.
And I encourage you guys to be great listeners. Great listeners, just a person will talk you through all the crazy things that are in their head if you allow them to keep talking. Oftentimes, we want to rebut each statement, but if you can hold your tongue a little longer, they will reveal exactly who they
Yep.
are, and what they're thinking if you just let them roll with it.
Hmm.
So that is my word of wisdom for the day. So um Dan stays on Sarper. He's trying to really get under Sarper's skin. He talks about how all of Shekinah's ex-boyfriends were losers except for him. And then backtracks a little bit by saying, oh, but we just dated. We weren't dating. We went on some dates, and then turns to Sarper's face and says, do you know the difference? As if they're not engaged.
Right.
I was like, oh. And so when Sarper said, we're both Middle Eastern, he's giving digs at me and I know exactly what he's doing. The rest of the Americans, they may not know, but he's coming for me basically. And he's coming for me with the little digs that he's acting like these are like compliments or off the cuff funny jokes. But no, really, he's saying a lot without trying to say a lot. Abby?
I don't even think it was really that hidden. I feel like it was out in the open that he was making these digs. Maybe I'm a little bit more sensitive to it because I have traveled a little bit, but I didn't feel like it was hidden at all.
I feel like he started low key and then he progressed to just being full fledged. And why I say that is because he was saying all of these things about, the difference in dating. Are you just here for 3 months? And then he full on said, well, I didn't believe in your relationship, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think that this was going to hold. And he still thinks that he's a better guy to be with than Sarper. That's it. That's not hidden. That's saying, I don't think you should be with him. I'm trying to get another chance. You say it in a circle of friends and you say it dead to this guy's face. Listen, you guys, if there's no other form of disrespect, first of all, I applaud Sarper for not reacting in this situation, because I'll tell you something, that deserved a reaction.
It deserved a reaction.
That is
but very good on him for maintaining his composure, because he's going to look better in the long run and more secure by just keeping his cool.
But we're saying the same thing, but that deserved a reaction.
It did.
What you're not about to do is disrespect someone who is engaged to your ex. You can't get over it. That's your problem. Those are your feelings that you need to deal with. This woman clearly said, I don't want to be with you. This is the person I want to spend my life with. And that's the direction I'm going. So respect that. So not only are you disrespecting, in my opinion, Sarper, but you're disrespecting Shekinah's choices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that circles back to you being selfish, a bit of a narcissist, because you're saying everyone was a loser except for you. You're the only person that is good enough for her. And I'm saying, if you were good enough, you would be with her.
Exactly. Shekinah should have shut this down.
100%.
Either he shouldn't be your friend anymore and he shouldn't be there at all, or as soon as he said, oh, it sounds like you're here for convenience, Dan, you can stop right now, or you can excuse yourself, but you're not going to do this.
Yes, I agree with you. Sarper didn't respond, and like Abby said, I agree that made him look like the bigger man, and it also showed me how much growth he's had since the previous seasons that we've seen him, because that would not have been easy to do. And then he threw in a little bit of humor that cracked me up, because he called Dan the little French baguette that just keeps on yabbering. Died of laughter, because that's super funny. And if you've ever been to anywhere in France, they love baguettes, and to say you're the little French baguette is quite the dig, because there's nothing little about a baguette. So he continues to go on saying that he feels like he was the better man, and instead of Shekinah going back to Turkey all the time, that she should have been with him. And then again, Sarper brought some comedy in, kept his cool composure, and said, there are men that portray themselves as bad boys, and there are men that are actual bad boys. And again, he uses an analogy that makes no sense. And because I am that girl as well, I got it. And I was like, that makes perfect sense to me. So he said, there are men that are dog guys and there are cat guys. Y'all know how I feel about cats. He said Dan was a cat guy. I died of laughter, because yes, you are, Dan. You are a cat guy. And cats are bitches. And you're a bitch too. How? All right, then. I'm the only one that thought that was fantastic, clearly. Dan goes on to say, you better not want to have problems with me for sure. Don't break her heart. And, you're not Ken. You got to stop collecting Barbies. Starper says, well, no, she's my Barbie, which is basically saying, like, that's my ultimate prize. And no, Dan wasn't having it. And he was like, listen, I don't believe this. I don't believe a word you're saying. I don't believe you're good for her. And Sarper's like, well, you have no authority over this relationship. I thought it was a beautiful statement. And Dan goes on, well, you can't control my feelings. Well, no one's trying to control your feelings, Dan. You need to control your feelings, and you need to control the fact that you're saying all these things and you don't have a place to say any of the things because you're not in this relationship. You're the friend. And I use that term loosely because you're not acting like a friend. You're acting like a jealous ex-lover that cannot believe that your ex has moved on and is happy and healthy and thriving without you. Abby?
He is currently in a one-sided relationship, and he should be embarrassed by that.
100%.
Are you not embarrassed, Dan, that you are in this one-sided relationship?
Facts. Moving on to Mark and Mina, Maria, and the whole family. Mark, before I get into it, what were your overall thoughts on this, Abby?
Mark is a bitch.
Oh, well said, I guess. I would jump on that and say that Jordan is the evil spawn of all children. And the fact that she smiles in Mina's face drives me crazy because she is everything that I just talked about, a friend that's not really a friend. Someone that is saying that they want you to be in their lives and be happy and healthy and thriving, but really they want your downfall. I think Jordan is the devilette 101, period. And I'm not okay with that. And I also, and I'm gonna bring this up later, but I also find it fascinating. First of all, I just want to ask you, first of all, I have so many questions about this whole family, Mark. Clearly, there's something about Black people that they love because the Black people are sprinkled throughout the family. There is this random Black lady that they introduced everyone else that was there, but not the random Black lady.
No.
And the man that I was assuming is her person that is part of the family. Or maybe not, I don't know, but we didn't know who they were, but she was the first person to walk over to Mina in this segment. Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Give me some backstory, and why are all these Blacks sprinkled around this crazy ass family that y'all clearly have some issues? I need to know more. That being said, Mina needs a little bit of space. She doesn't want to talk to Jordan after their last confrontation. But, they're all going to go over to Ballhead Island in North Carolina for a family barbecue with Mark's brother and the rest of his family. So they all meet up. They have to take a little ferry over. It's awkward silence between all of them. And don't forget Jordan and her now fiance. I don't know, maybe they got married. I'm not sure. But at that point, it was her boyfriend. They got engaged, Gabe, who also happens to be Black. They're all there, and it's very awkward. And Jordan literally says that she wants Mina to try harder to fit into the family. And she says she wants to clear the air, but in order to clear the air, she really wants Mina to apologize to her, to do better, to try to fit in the family, all the things. And I was disgusted because when are you going to take responsibility for making her feel unwelcome? Right. And all the things that you are holding against her from back in Paris when you first met her, you're doing the exact same things and worse, because now you guys are bullying her and teaming up against her, but you're smiling in her face saying, hey, no, but I really want to get to know you and I want to get to know Maria. This is the first time you even mentioned Maria.
First time.
Kids have an honest sense of people. They will go to people that they love. You know, I did read a study about even babies, when they stare at people they think are beautiful and are trusting, that they can like connect with. And children will tell you to your face, "Is that a pimple? Auntie, why is your tooth yellow? Auntie, what is that?" You know, like they will just, kids will, they're brutally honest. And so I thought it was interesting that when they're on this ferry and Jordan's like, "Let's clear the air and I want to spend more time with Maria and make things better." And she turns to hold Maria's hand. Maria literally didn't hold her hand and turned her head. That says a lot, because that child, A, she doesn't know you, and B, she doesn't think that she can trust you.
Right.
Because normally kids are like, "Yes, come on, give me all the attention."
Right. Right. So we learned something interesting in this episode that I think gives so much more context to what happened when they were in France that Jordan's so mad about. The first night that they arrived, she hosted a home cooked dinner for his entire family. She hosted and was present and prepared with her own hands the food for his entire family. So all this bitching about not spending time with her in France wasn't even true. Now, the day of the event, when she was late, that was not a time when you exclusively had time with her. She made exclusive time for Mark's family the night that they came in. That is entirely reasonable to me.
I agree with you. And to just piggyback off of what you're saying, you know, and Americans, I love y'all, but sometimes the density of the things that you do and hold on people is like astounding to me. And I know that part of that is a lack of travel, a lack of culture. And I said this in the last episode. If you are on Parisian time, you know that on time means nothing. It means nothing. So you guys are saying, you know, she was 4 hours late and that's what you're holding against her. Although, like Abby said, she brought you into her space, cooked with her own hands, and hosted you your first night. The next night, when it was the event, the shower and all of that stuff, and it really was about her and her baby, if you knew anything about Parisian culture, first of all, you're grown. Entertain yourself. It's a party. Have a party. And when she gets there, she gets there.
Right.
Why are you taking offense to that? But second of all, if you knew the culture, you would be like, "Hey, that's how they roll here." You might not roll like that, but that's how they roll here. Absorb and know the culture that you're around and go with that flow. But instead, that's what you're going to hold against her, and also bully and turn on her and put her in awkward situations, which I'm just not okay with. She's barely there for a week and you guys are doing all of this and she's trying to get to know you. How are you making her feel welcome? And I say that because, again, Jordan says that she needs Mina to try harder. And I need you guys to keep that in the back of your heads, because how is Jordan trying harder when, although Mina says, "Oh, you know, I think it's honorable and nice that she's trying to make the peace, but is it real?" That statement, period, was her inner beauty warning her that don't let your guard down. We all have that inner voice, and oftentimes we disregard it. And I encourage you guys not to disregard it, because it's protecting you. So they get to the house, they get to the island, and Jordan has taken off with Gabe. So you already know her intentions were bad, because you all could have fit on the same golf cart and arrived together. But no, you guys went ahead. And Mina's gut was like, "Why did she go so quickly?" Well, she went quickly because she wants to talk to the family first before they get there. And that's exactly what happened. So they get there. We meet Sherry, the mom. We meet Fred, the dad, Christy, the sister-in-law, and Rich, the brother. And everyone has something different to say. So the mom said, I felt good about her that first night. She hosted us, made dinner, all the things. That's what the mom held on to. The brother, Rich, was not feeling it. And he said a lot of stuff that even hurt my feelings. I was like, oh, this is a hostile situation. So whatever Jordan said and brought back up whatever happened in Paris had them all riled up, because here's what happened. So there was a funny little situation about Mark having food in his fridge that expired from 5 years ago and beyond, from 2017. First of all, that's so nasty. That's why I say you can't eat at everyone's house, y'all, because you really can't. You really can't. You really can't.
You can't. Yeah.
But so Sherry, so far, but we see the preview of next week where she turns on for Mina too. But Sherry in this episode is like, yeah, I felt good about her. Christy, the sister-in-law, says I didn't have the best impression of her in Paris, because the first night she said it was okay, but she never felt welcome because Mina was 4 hours late for the event the next day. That's what made you not feel welcome, not the fact that she cooked for you, she broke bread with you,
Right.
She welcomed you into her space. That wasn't good enough.
They're acting like their actual family member, Mark, they're acting like he wasn't there. Like it was all Mina's job.
Rich and Mark, brother and brother, are talking. Rich tells Mark that he didn't think that Paris went well. He feels that Mina didn't talk to them much, and she came out as a, quote, princess, and he is siding with Jordan. And he says that Jordan is feeling upset because she's missing her daddy-daughter time, which I just... What are your thoughts on that?
I have a question for you. Because I don't know. When you have a christening for a baby, for me, it's typical for the parents to get dressed up for this occasion. And I would think something was wrong if my friend was having a christening for their baby and they walked out and they weren't dressed up. So is there something different that happens where he thinks that Mina should not have dressed up?
No. I mean, I don't know. That's exactly how I was raised, and that's exactly how our christenings and every christening I've ever been to is. Everyone gets dressed up. That's part of the christening. And that's just how it is. So I'm not sure why Rich is having that specific issue.
Mm-hmm. This is an issue where I feel like we're feeling some latent racism happening. And I'll explain to you why. Because there's no win for her. They're complaining that she was dressed up, right? Well, Rich is complaining that she was dressed up. But if she had not dressed up, then it would have been she was slovenly. So there's really no way for her to win in this situation.
And there's not. And then they didn't feel welcome, but she welcomed you into her home. They didn't feel like she didn't talk to them much, but she spent the whole first evening with you.
Right.
So
he added this weird caveat that, she had to spend time with us the first evening because it was a small place. What are you saying? You're saying she didn't choose that place deliberately to spend time with you, that it was just a trap of some sort? She trapped herself in the room with you. She chose that place to host you.
Yeah.
So there's already all of this negative assumptions to her actions that makes me believe that even if she had been in punto, if she had been right on the 0-0 for that event to start, they still were not going to be happy with her. They still want her to do so much more. And the latent racism in that is always expecting Black people to go out of their way to be accommodating to you and accommodating to your feelings, even when the event is their event.
Agreed. My note says they're just creating tension and hostility against Mina. And the fact that Rich had the audacity and Mark had, like you said, no backbone. Listen, when Rich said, we booked a refundable ticket for the wedding just in case, that should have been the end of all the things. You should have left that barbecue. You should have gone to your fiance and said, you know what? I love you despite all the things that my family is doing to you. Whatever you need, whatever you want to feel supported, I'm there for you. The fact that Mark didn't say anything but said, oh, I didn't know that you realized you guys all felt this way and that my whole family is doubting it. Your family is doubting because, in my opinion, Jordan set them off. In my opinion, there's some underlying hostility and racism and ignorance in the family that no one's addressing. And instead, you're flipping all of that insecurity as hatred towards Mina. And I just am not okay with that. I'm just not okay with that.
Not okay with it either. And I wonder when people are in these situations, because of the work that I do, when you're an immigrant coming into the United States, I don't know if you even pick up on some of these subtleties of what people are saying to you or insinuating about you. So I don't even know if Mina knows how dangerous of a situation she's in. She certainly feels unwelcome, but does she know how dangerous the situation is for the future? For example, if her and Mark are not together, would she know that this is a dangerous situation for Maria to be in alone?
It's a great question. And not just that, also geographically, it's not like she can get away. They took a ferry over. So, Get Out, that movie is Get Out. So are you there? Oh, you timed out a minute. You're back. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I do think that Mark cares about her, but this is, some of the limitations that you hit when you're in a relationship that is cross-cultural, cross-racial, is if you haven't done the work beforehand, then you run into these kind of problems. So here's a family that hasn't done any of their decolonization, any of their anti-Blackness work, but they're inviting these random Black people into the family and then subjecting them to harm because of it.
Mm-hmm. Which leads into what I said earlier. I really do want to know who the other Black woman was, because Jordan then brings up the prenup in front of everybody. First of all, Jordan, it's none of your effing business. It's not, and
incredibly rude.
Incredibly
none of your business. Incredibly inappropriate.
None of your business. Inappropriate. Wrong timing. And then the fact that you put Mina, who's barely been there a week, on the spot in front of the entire family that she's only seeing for a second time. You knew exactly what you were doing. That's mean girl behavior. That's bullying behavior. That is devilette behavior. And I'm just not okay with it.
Yeah.
So she brings up the prenup. Mark, instead of saying, hey, you're my child, you're not my ex-wife, that's none of your business, says, yes, we're going to do it. Which was surprising to Mina because they really had not secured any type of answer. But he said, we're going to do it before the wedding. And then the mom, who I thought was on her side, said, oh, that's good, because if not, you'll get nailed.
So even if they had had a conversation about prenups beforehand and Mina had agreed to sign one, because at this point, we don't even know what Mina gave up. She could be independently wealthy. We don't know.
I said that last week.
It still would not be an appropriate conversation for the entire family to be having in front of her. And it just goes to show that when Jordan tried to tap her on the shoulder and say, I don't want things to be awkward, let's clear the air, she didn't mean it at all.
Yep.
Because why would you bring up something like this, which is completely going to throw her off balance, even if they had said previously, yes, we're going to do a prenup, even if they had ironed out exactly what the agreement was. It was not there's no reason for her to bring that up in front of everybody.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's called something. I can't think of it. I was going to call it like a shock bait or whatever. But you know, when you like set someone up and you think you're being set up for success, but really they're going to throw in the curveball to knock you off your feet. It's called something. Can't remember, but that's what she was doing. She was like, hey, yeah, it's great. We're going to be great. Let's just let bygones be bygones and start afresh. And I want to get to know you and I want to get to know my sister. She didn't want any of that.
No.
You signed in the
I feel
prenup
like
or what?
she was trying to bully her dad in front of her grandmother. That's what she was doing.
And also make Mina the bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
the villain of the story, when really she's the villain. Jordan is
And
a villain,
the
period.
only, I mean, I think that what Mina did was fine. She stood up for herself. I think the only other thing that she would have been able to say in that moment is, you know, okay, if that's how you feel, if you want to iron everything out beforehand in front of everybody, let's talk about how we're going to do custody if we split up as well.
Mm.
Let's
Yeah.
go. You want to talk about everything? Let's talk about everything. You can buy me a ticket to go back to France tomorrow.
That part. Moving on to Greg and Joan and Lucille. They have 80 days to get married. Greg is a messy person because Greg is an adult baby and he is used to his mom picking up for him. And he even said it. Joan comes into the room. She doesn't understand why all his clothes on the floor. Like, can't you just pick up yourself? You are a grown ass 35-year-old. And he literally says he's used to his mom nagging and picking up after him. So now you want your fiance to also pick up after you as if she was your secondary mom, which I spoke about in earlier episodes. I am not impressed by that at all. But he then goes on to say that, you know, he's used to his mom cleaning up after him. And again, you're a big grown ass baby. And his fiance, who's 26, is trying to have a conversation with him. And to me, this is a red flag. I'm all about gaming, but have a job, have your own place, have stood on your own feet. So you have time to sit in front of the computer and game in your mama's house, in your childhood bedroom, but you don't have time for a job. You don't have time for job hunting. You better be on your computer, on like LinkedIn, Indeed, whatever else, looking for a job and not gaming, because you have a full-on fiance here. You have a dowry. You have a wedding. You have a apartment at the very least to find, but you don't want to have that conversation, but instead you want to turn to your fiance and say, can I get back to gaming? Sir.
I had such high hopes for Greg because he did seem to have a good personality. It's still there a little bit, but it's being so completely overridden by his inability to function as an adult.
Listen, I do not doubt that Greg is loving, like Joan says, that he has a beautiful heart, like Joan says, like you said, great personality, that Abby says. What I'm saying is great personality, loving heart does not pay the bills.
It doesn't. This is a really good example of love simply is not enough.
Love is not enough, y'all. He's 35, and I'll tell you this all day long. 35 is closer to the 40 than it is to 20. You're living up in your mama's house. You ain't got no job. Your job is you want to be a baker and have a bakery, and you think that when you're baking with no gloves on, and you put that shit in Tupperware and walk around your neighborhood, that that's a job. I'm here to inform you that that's not a job, and sometimes you need tough love, and I'm giving you tough love. This is not it. This is not it. This, if I was a life coach and was your life coach, would say, hey, you know what? This is not the look. So go ahead and turn off your gaming because A, you're not even a gamer. If you were a gamer and making all the buckets of money, then I'd say, okay, let me look at you a little differently. You're not even doing that. You're playing some video games that are on your like old ass PC and you ain't got a job. What?
Yeah, no.
You're 35 years old.
My 22-year-old son is doing better than Greg. So this is really ridiculous, and I would not encourage anyone to stay in this situation. I don't think, when you're coming out of college and you're, whatever, 21, 22, that's when you can grow with someone. But when you meet somebody and they're 35, if they're not fully formed, fledged, and able to care for themselves, I just don't think they're ready for partnership. It's my opinion.
Listen, you don't have to be there, but you have to be trying to get there. And that's the difference.
Exactly. He did make me laugh, though. He did make me like belly laugh. He said that oh God, how did he say it? He said if he had a job, then he wouldn't have been able to visit her all those times.
I was gonna get to that, but
oh, I just tooted.
oh, so good.
Oh gosh, that made me laugh so hard. I'm like, did he just say what I think he said?
Yeah, he said, "You're lucky that I was unemployed and had no ambition or any type of worry. I was able to come and visit you as much as I could because I didn't have any adult responsibilities, and that's the only reason we are engaged today." Idiot.
Please, if you are overseas watching that, please do not let any American tell you that being unemployed is a reasonable thing. It is not reasonable here to be unemployed unless you have some generational wealth going on. But even you see our people who've been on the show who actually are well off, they still had jobs. Okay.
So Joan calls her family Elizabeth, Angel, and Kyle, and explains how, she thought she was only going to be there for a few months living with Greg and his mom, but it looks like they might be there for up to 2 years, and that Greg doesn't have any money and he needs to get a job. And the family basically says everything that I'm saying, that's not okay. It's just not okay. Like, does he work? He needs to work. He needs to get a job. And
were you surprised that they didn't immediately say, come home?
I was a little surprised by that because Africans definitely will say, get out.
Yeah, I was really surprised, especially because it's a white man. Because what were your ancestors doing while the rest of the white people were looting? Why are you poor? While all the rest of the white people were stealing land and power and putting money in offshore accounts and cashing in their insurance for their enslaved population, what were your ancestors doing? Why you got a little rinky-dink house?
April took us all the way there, and I'm not mad at it at all.
Whenever I meet a white man and I'm doing better than him, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
You're not wrong, April. I have no words right now because I just don't. And I have no words. You're not wrong. That's all I know. Talk about the dowry. And it's really important to Joan culturally. It's disrespectful to her family, her culture, and her father's last wishes, she says, if he doesn't do this dowry. They're down to 71 days before they have to get married, and the dowry is the dowry is 15 cows. We'll get to that in a minute. But in the meantime, I didn't know that Joan and Greg and Lucille were living on a pseudo farm. I didn't know they had 18 chickens in their backyard and that they get fresh eggs from those chickens all the time. Did you?
I vaguely remembered her saying something to him early on that when she was going to make breakfast for him to go get the eggs.
Yeah. Listen, I love that. Live off the land, y'all. Live off the land. But it was so funny because Joan's like, when can we eat one? And Greg looked over at her like, what? What are the chickens? And she's like, yeah, like Estelle or Tony. Died of laughter. Died of laughter. Because that's funny. Lucille comes out. She makes the announcement that she's going to work and asks them to like take care of the garden. And that's part of the issue is the mom's always around. And even during the pandemic, Greg felt that living in the house all the time with his mom, he needed his mom to do something, even though she is the landowner and he is the bum that lives there scot-free. He had his mom go get a food delivery job. And so that's what she still does. And because she went and did that, they now have a little bit of alone time. So they're going to go get jiggy with it. And I just was like, why doesn't Greg have a delivery job? Why does Greg have no job? Why is Mama in her retirement still working so that she can pay her mortgage and feed her grown-ass baby child? I have a real problem with it, you guys. I just think it's super lazy, and I think someone needs to light a fire under him because he has no incentive to change his behavior.
No, he doesn't. And his justifications for not working indicate to me that he doesn't have the ability to change his perspective, unfortunately.
That's
I
it.
have lost hope in his ability to thrive.
How you ain't got no job and you get a job offer and you turn the job down? No, it wasn't for me. Well, what
Yeah.
is it for you?
He also said that he's only looking at state jobs. You can't get a state job with no experience.
With no experience. And a whole ass yearly after yearly gap on your resume because you ain't doing shit. Oh.
And I don't think he has any higher education either. I could be wrong about that, but I don't remember him saying that.
You're
so
not wrong.
He's not working with a whole lot. It doesn't make sense for him to be looking for a state job.
Just get a job. Start there. You know what? It's easier to find another job when you have a current job.
It is. So just go ahead and waddle down to the McDonald's.
Waddle down to the McDonald's. So one of the things I thought was interesting that they talked to Lucille and she thinks that their living arrangement is better than she thought it was going to be. She loves seeing her son happy. And again, she goes off to work. They have some alone time. They have some intimacy. And there was something in there that I'm not even sure if I can say it on YouTube, but the joke was so
raunchy.
And then Joan's face, when she was like, was my face. I said, did he just say, let's just say, when the mom said, take care of the garden, and then he's watering the plants. There was a whole joke in there, you guys, that I was like, what time is it?
Look, it made daytime TV. I think you could say it.
Can I say it?
I think you can say it. It's uncomfortable, but I think you can say it.
All right. If I get banned, you start sending the checks to me directly. I'm not saying it, but basically he's watering and, then he's like, well, didn't I already water you? And her face was like,
did he just say that to me out loud?
Right. I was like, did he just say that? What? Then Joan flips it, and this is where I thought it was funny because, men are so basic. They're so basic, you guys, basic. So Joan took the appropriate time to say, when is this going to change? I can't see myself living here for the next 2 years. You need to get a job. And he says, yes, I need to get a job. But you know why, you guys? It's because he just got jiggy with it. That's how basic it is. You throw a little something, something, boom. Have your request? Oh, yeah. Now, will they follow through? It has to be immediate, because if it's tomorrow, then that immediate gratification has already left their brain. But she knew what she was doing. She planted the seed, and now Mr. 35-year-old no job ever. I'm kidding. I'm sure he's had a job sometime, but he hasn't had a job in a long time. Is ready to get a job, Abby. My question to you, Abby, is did his mom, so I'm doing a lot of talking about him not working, and he hasn't worked in a long time. I don't believe that he has passed high school education. He lives at home, and I'm not sure what his skill set is. Like, maybe he has blue collar skills. That, you guys, don't sleep on the mechanics and the all the technicians and the air conditioning guys. Those fools make a shitload of money. They're the new millionaires because no one's doing it and it's hard to find. So don't sleep on those fools. That being said, Abby, how can he sponsor Joan when he doesn't have a job and she has yet to get her green card because they're not married yet? So he's going to have to take care of her until she's able to work legally in the United States. So did his mom have to co-sign on the K-1 visa? And what does that look like?
So his mom would have had to be a joint sponsor. So she would have had to sign off to be responsible for if Joan ended up using any public services. And she would have had to provide her last 3 years of taxes to be a joint sponsor as well. Now, if you, as an immigrant, are being engaged to someone and they tell you that they have to use someone as a joint sponsor, I want you to truly reconsider that marriage, because the requirements, the financial requirements for sponsorship are very low. So if someone needs a joint sponsor in order to bring you to the United States, I want you to reconsider the financial position that you believe that person to be in. Because if they can't clear $13,000 a year, that's just one bottom line. It's different depending on which state you live in and how many people are in your house. But let's just say if they can't clear $13,000 a year, do you really want to be financially entangled with that person?
Amen. Amen. Listen to the immigration attorney, y'all. That right there, golden nugget that you got for free. So Joan tells Greg that she's going to go back to Uganda if he doesn't get a job. She can't stay and rely on someone who's unstable. She then talks about the dowry, which is 15 cows, 1.5 million shillings, which is roughly $200 US. So times 15 is roughly $3,000 US that he has to come up with. And he's like, how is anyone going to afford that? And she's like, well, people afford it all the time. You just can't afford it because you ain't got no job. And then this is where the red flags came up for me. And I was like, she should just pack and go. Well, is it fair to me that this is all on me? I have to pay a dowry. I have to pay for a wedding. I have to pay for the ring. I have to pay for a dress. Sir.
Yeah, it is fair because it's what you agreed to.
Sir. Listen, I right now am on my best behavior because I feel like I've already gone on a couple of tangents. Don't make me go off. For you to ask that question to me is just a pure red flag, because your laziness and your sense of you brought her here. You proposed to her. So for your manly duties, all you got to do is get a job. And like Abby, the attorney said, you couldn't even sponsor her by yourself. Do you want your mom to marry your fiance and take care of your fiance?
And you. I think now that really was his plan, that he thought she would be okay to stay with his mom, and that's what they would continue to do. Because otherwise, why hasn't he put some other kind of plan in motion?
Yeah.
There was something that he did in the very beginning of the show, like repairing appliances or doing some kind of informal plumbing. What was it?
Yeah, he was the handyman plumber.
Yeah. So he could
Um,
just get a certification in plumbing or air condition or whatever it was that he was doing, but he hasn't even done that. Like there's absolutely no plan that has been put in place, and he's got all the time in the world to do it. He could still look for a full-time job and get himself into a certificate program, community college, but he hasn't.
Go get a job. Hey, Tanya. Hey, go hey.
Hi,
Happy Monday on a
Tanya.
Tuesday. Let's move on to
So
Sean and
yeah.
Aaliyah.
Okay, Sean and Aaliyah.
Uh,
They're good topic.
yeah, what do you want to say about it?
I mean, there's a lot going on here. There are a lot of feelings that Sean is having that are quite valid, even though his language was hurtful. And there are a lot of feelings that Aaliyah is having that are very useful. But I'm glad that we got to see that there is actually some care there, because I was worried for a while, like, did Aaliyah just make a blank trip to the US? Or is there still some care and concern here for her? So I'm glad that we got to see a little bit of that. But let's talk through some of the feelings that Sean is having.
Fair. Hey, Michelle. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, Michelle.
That being said, I do really, I'm impressed by both sides. I'm impressed by both sides in their communication, in their needs and wants. I do think what was brought to my attention specifically is when you change the dynamics of a relationship, does your partner have the right to feel some type of way about it? And my conclusion is yes.
Mhm.
And as long as you guys continue to communicate your true feelings, that's how you either work through it or you work apart. But the fact that these two have been able to continue to move forward and communicate, I thought that this was an important lesson for, not only lesson, but reminder for all of us. So they go to Hamburger Mary's, which is a big deal in LA. It's like a spot that a lot of people go to, and they're meeting up with Angela, one of Sean's friends, and they are at drag bingo. And if you've never been to drag bingo, you should go. It's a lot of fun. And the jokes are raunchy jokes, and they're hilarious, and it's a good time. And the bingo is the bingoing. The O69 is all the O69s in the thing. It's a whole mess, and I love it. But Angela, the first thing Angela says, it's too loud in here. Can we go outside? Okay, let's go outside, Angela. Mind you, it's Aaliyah's first day in LA. Angela's like, how has it been? How are you loving LA? And Aaliyah's like, I've been here for 24 hours. So that's my answer. And Angela's like, oh, you must feel a lot of pressure to have to get married in 90 days. And, to Abby's point, to my point, to all the points, yes, it's 90 days to get married, but it should not be 90 days to get to know your partner, because you've been with your partner and you've come to the point where you want your partner to be your life partner, and you have proposed to them. So that question or that statement by Angela was a little concerning to me, and a little concerning to Aaliyah, because Aaliyah's like, hey, my concern is that Sean hasn't told his friends and family about me, and now I'm just starting to get to know them, and that's why you guys are having crazy questions like, do you feel pressured to get married in 90 days? Well, no, we've known each other and been dating for 3 years. Yes, a lot of it's all been long distance, but it's not like I just met him.
Mm-hmm.
But because Sean has not introduced Aaliyah or talked about Aaliyah in that sense, because he talked a lot about Douglas, and we're getting to that, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
So Angela explains that Sean talked a lot about Douglas, and that's what she knows. And Angela continued to use the name Douglas, and that was hurtful to Aaliyah. And it was hurtful for her because Angela continued to use that name, and to Aaliyah, that is her dead name.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a whole segment. They did a whole flashback where Douglas is no longer, Aaliyah is the person. And so she's taking a lot of offense to what Angela is saying and how Angela keeps using Douglas instead of Aaliyah and
Mm-hmm.
referring back to that relationship. Now, there are a couple of things I do want to say here. One, I think that Angela could have asked more questions and she could have been a little bit more sensitive. But I also know that she's coming from a place of not knowing. And I've been in that place, and Abby has informed me. I've also done my own research. But I do understand, because if you're not around it, then there can be a little bit of ignorance. I do think Aaliyah could have spoken up for herself and explained to her why that was being hurtful, because I don't know if Angela knew that she was being hurtful, because she's speaking only from what she knows. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe she doesn't know what the dead name is. Maybe she doesn't know the importance of that when you're transitioning. Abby, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Angela was not offered an opportunity to change her behavior. So if you don't offer people an opportunity to change behavior, then I don't know if it's right to have any kind of resentment against them for what they're doing. In Aaliyah's defense, you've just arrived, probably still jet lagged, and you're looking at your partner for support, and there's none coming. So it was just a bad situation. For my read on it is it was just a bad situation for everybody, because we don't know if one correction, if one saying that name had been, oh, could you say Aaliyah instead? We don't know if she would have immediately flipped or if she would have offered some resistance, but there was no opportunity for it.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and then, you know, Sean, I think, so Tanya said I would also blame Sean for not correcting friends. I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding in relationships, even like mine. For those of you who are new here, my son is transgender. There's a misunderstanding that you have been informed that someone is transgender and suddenly you know all the rules, and you don't. Even if it's somebody that you love, you don't know all of the rules. And you also don't know that what applies to one person may not apply to the next person. So you may be in a situation where somebody doesn't care about their dead name being used to refer to pre-transition activities or events. So you don't know that you're doing something wrong. So there has to be the opportunity for correction. And in that moment, Aaliyah had the information and didn't share it. And that's not me saying it's Aaliyah's fault, because Sean or Angela could have also said, hey, how do you want me? I'm talking about something that happened beforehand. How do you want me to deal with that? So if you find yourself in one of these situations, I think the best way that you can handle it is just to always ask the person, no matter how many individuals you've interacted with, to always ask the person, how do you want me to refer to a certain thing? And then you have given an opportunity for correction. The only other thing I noticed is that, like, as we're watching it, of course, we have more information than them because we're hearing the sidebar that Aaliyah is giving to us. But my read on her body language was that she was growing more and more uncomfortable. And maybe somebody could have checked in then and said, hey, is this an uncomfortable conversation for you? Should we change the topic? Because there was like a physical shrinking that was happening on Aaliyah's part during this conversation.
True. And she was offended. She tells Sean that she's not happy about what transpired as they were leaving, and starts questioning whether Sean loves her as Aaliyah, accepts her as Aaliyah, or if he's stuck with Douglas. Michelle, yes, I will be covering Hunt for Love because I am so excited about all of the crazy, ridiculous mess that we're about to watch. And when I tell you guys, it's about to be super messy, like more messy than any of the spinoffs. It's going to be so messy. That's it. So I'm 100% all in. 100% all in. So Aaliyah explains she's upset after the luncheon or meetup. They go home, they sleep it off a little bit. It's the next day. They're getting ready to go shopping, and Aaliyah is taking her time getting ready. Sean is already ready, waiting. And then apparently Sean had, and this is just a sidebar because I didn't see it, but had a rip in his shorts. Did you see the rip, Abby?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see it. I was
It's
like,
not
where's
big. It's just, it was a little hole. That's why I think he was just like, whatever, I don't care. I'm still going.
I didn't see it. So I was like, okay, whatever. Let's roll out. They roll out, they go shopping, and they start to communicate because Sean sees that Aaliyah is still upset from the night before. Aaliyah explains that she doesn't want anyone to use her dead name. And Sean has a little bit of reaction to that, says, how do we talk about our full relationship, the full picture, if I cannot refer to Douglas? Because he says if there was there would be no Sean and Aaliyah if there was no Sean and Douglas. And I thought that was a very valid point. The point being, you started this relationship with someone, and this someone is a different someone now, and you still love that person, but it's a different someone. Are you not allowed to refer back to that first love? What are your thoughts on that?
I would just, full disclosure, I've never been in this position because my son didn't change his name. He still uses his birth name. But if somebody said to me that it was hurtful to use their dead name, then the loss that I feel of not being able to refer to that name is my personal issue. I'm not going to make it the other person's issue. That is my issue. That is my burden to bear. That is my grief to have on my own. The other person has enough emotionally complicated things to deal with that I'm not going to push myself onto them. So I do think that what Sean is saying is a valid feeling for him to have. I do not think it's right for him to push that feeling on Aaliyah to deal with it. The same way that Sean is upset about all these photos that we have together, all these things that we do that I can't display anymore. I have photos of my child that they took down from around our house because it doesn't align with who they are anymore. And those moments were precious to me. Those were dance recitals. Those were graduations. But that's not for me to put on them to feel bad about. Because if I want them to grow and thrive in who they are now, then what purpose does it serve for me to continually belay them with my sorrow of how much I loved that ballet photo? How does that help them thrive in the future? That's something for me to take to my girlfriends or to take to my therapist. And that's where I express myself and work that out.
Okay. Okay. I feel differently, I think, a little bit, but I'm going to sit on it for a minute. I think that I will say this, I think everyone's feelings are equally valid. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that no one person's feelings should be above and beyond anyone else's. I think just as you said that those are your feelings and you need to work through them, the other person, it should be their feelings and they need to work through their thing. And then mutually you come together to an agreement that it makes both people feel comfortable and both parties feel heard and supported and loved. Now, granted, I've not been in this specific situation, but I do think it doesn't negate from my overall stance. And my overall stance is everyone's feelings are important, and no one should have to like shrink their feelings in order for someone else to thrive. I think everyone should be able to thrive. That being said, I will circle back on this topic after I digest what Abby just said.
Yeah, just think about it.
I will.
Um, 1,000 pieces. If it is, this is a good thing to talk about. Do you share a home? I said yes, because if it's displayed in your home, it's your space for memories. Yes, it's my home. Yes, it's my space for memories. But I would like to have a child who chooses to spend time with me and chooses to visit me when I do get into my older age. And I don't think that constantly reminding them of things that they don't want to be reminded of is the way to foster that relationship.
That you guys, we can continue this conversation for sure. If you have thoughts about it, continue to hit up that live chat. If you are watching the replay, definitely hit us up in the replay, or wherever you're catching our show. Let us know and we'll communicate. That being said, I'm going to keep pushing forward about Sean, because I do think that, again, his feelings are valid as well. So Sean talked about mourning Douglas, but he's had some time to think about it and loves the inner light of both Aaliyah and Douglas. And this is what I thought was beautiful. He loves the inner light in both of them. He's drawn to both of those inner lights. And so all of the outside stuff, sex, gender, doesn't matter to him. He cherishes the feeling. That's what's important to him at this age, is he wants to have a life with that person, and he wants to live his life with that person, and that's what's important. And I think that that's what's important to all of us, really, is cherishing good people in your life, and all the other stuff should really be insequential, right? You should love the people that love you. You should cherish the people that cherish you. You should be mindful of the feelings of others, but you should also be mindful of your own feelings. So this was a beautiful moment, in my opinion, because you saw true growth, you saw inner development, you saw care and concern for their partner. So all of those things are things that we can all learn from and take golden nuggets and use those things in our lives. So
Mm-hmm.
Aaliyah's cooking, she's making dinner, and they shared a moment that was important to them. So in the beginning, Aaliyah made an adventure book, which is so relatable because I do those type of things as well in relationships. And I just think that they're priceless beyond like anything you can put on social media. I just love it. It's super old school and I still love it. But they had a Sean and Douglas book. And what was so beautiful in this moment is that Sean said, that story is finished, but we're on to a new chapter. And so we're going to have a new chapter, new adventures, and that should have a new book. And he created a Sean and Aaliyah book. And I literally cried, you guys, because
Oh.
that moment was so special, because it finally was like all the stuff that I had doubts about, like you're not telling your friends, you're not telling your children, you're not telling your extended family about Aaliyah, like what's going on there. And Aaliyah has come and left her life, and plus she's going through all the transitions and new country. You guys, it's hard to move to a new country and not know anyone and have all your people back home and you're still adjusting. And then there's also a language part to it. There's a lot of, and then you have to like lean on someone because you can't work. So you're not financially independent. So it's the financial independence, it's the emotional independence, it's the time away, it's all the things. You guys think, oh, this person is here for a green card. It really is not that simple, and it's really not that easy. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is what made it so beautiful to me. I feel like Aaliyah said, she felt loved. I think that was a loving gesture, not only a physical, tangible gesture, but an emotional gesture. And I think that that's important to do. Abby?
Yep. Yeah, I love this moment. Also, I think they didn't show the full meal, but I think Aaliyah was cooking my favorite Brazilian food, the beans and sausage and rice. Oh,
So good.
it made me so hungry watching it.
So good.
But yeah, this was really beautiful. I think it was a big deal for Sean too, because he had been struggling with, exactly how he felt in this relationship. So I think it was a big deal for him to display this kind of acceptance.
Hmm. Last and certainly not least, Jessica and Juan, 87 days to get married. We see one of the things we do see in this is that how far ago this was filmed, right? So it's Christmas time last year. They're in matching Christmas PJs. One of the things we learned about Juan is that, he still has not adapted to 3 young children in the house. So he thought that Jessica's pajamas would be the sexy version of the Christmas PJs. And she's like, I have 3 kids.
Right.
Like, what? Jessica realizes that they need to have a conversation about the fight that they had before, because we all know that Juan cheated, but she also tried to reconnect with an ex. So they just really need to have that conversation, but they don't want to have it with the kids, which I think is important. You don't want the kids to feel that tension and feel whatever is going on in the adult world does not need to translate into trauma bond for the children. So she takes her boys to their dad's house. I thought it was interesting that the dad lives down the street, y'all.
Walking distance.
Walking distance. Are we going to address that at all? Are they still messaging me to be a matchmaker? Come on, come through. Come, I'll be a matchmaker. I am excellent at that. Matchmaker, life coach, therapist. No. So Jessica says, you know what? We both felt the distance when we were long distance. We did not communicate properly, and we were both feeling lonely. And that's why we're here where we are. She also says that's why she was able to forgive Juan for cheating. Now, girl to girl, Abby, I personally don't think she's telling the full truth about reconnecting with her ex. I don't. I personally don't think when she's like nothing happened. I kind of just don't believe her. What are your thoughts?
I don't believe her either. And the reason why is because he asked if the kids were there. He said they weren't. She didn't even arrange for the kids to not be there when Juan got home. So they couldn't even have any privacy so if you can't arrange that when Juan arrives, then why do I think that you innocently arranged that for your ex to come over? I just don't believe that, Jessica.
I just don't believe it. And y'all know how it is with exes. Y'all know how it is.
You already know, you've already seen that person. You already know. I'm just, I don't know. Maybe she told him the truth, but doesn't want to tell us on TV. But I just know they got in that house and all their clothes fell off.
That part. I don't believe you, Jessica. I don't believe you. We've all been in that situation, and none of us have been that strong, except for me.
Not me, guys.
Let me tell you guys, I am so proud of myself. The debauchery that I was up to this week, but kept my boundaries. Listen, it's a new level. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think Jessica went above and beyond, or do you think that, she just said, hey, let's sit here and watch Netflix and chill and just continue to chill?
They did not chill. They did not chill.
Right? 1,000 pieces. I don't believe Jessica either. And Michelle, yes. Everyone always used to ask me to match them up with someone all the time. You were a great moderator, and I appreciate your help with all of that. Jessica goes on to ask Juan, do you want all of this normal life? Do you want the 3.5 kids, picket fence lifestyle? It's not going to be the cruise ship. It's not going to be the parties. It's not going to be the day parties. It's not going to be the drinking and all the things. It's not going to be all the shenanigans. Do you want this? And he says, I'm ready for this life, I guess. That did not instill any type of confidence in me at all.
No.
At all. Because you know what he did say? What he really wants is to be around his son.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really say that he wants this, quote, normal life. He didn't say he wants this normal life with you. He didn't say that he loves you above and beyond all else unconditionally, that he wants to be exclusive for you. What he did say is, I guess I'm ready, but I definitely want to be with my son.
Yeah, that's not inspiring. So, what he should do, the responsible thing to do, would be to go ahead and start making some kind of parenting plan of how he wants to spend time with his son and figuring out where he wants to live, because stop before you create a bigger hurt.
I agree. I agree, you guys.
But this is a limitation that exists with immigration, because in a different world he would be able to stay in the United States and stay with his son. But in the world that we are currently inhabiting, unfortunately, unless he gets married and she does the K application, there might not be anything else that he qualifies for that would allow him to remain in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times people go ahead with the marriage, even though the relationship is pretty clear it's not going to work out. Sometimes, even though the relationship is abusive, because otherwise they're going to risk separation from their children, which is proof of what I've said multiple times. Anchor babies do not exist. It is a lie. It is propaganda. Please don't fall for it. There's no such thing as anchor babies. Because if there was, he could say, I'm not marrying you and I'm just going to stay here and be with my baby, but he can't. He can't.
And listen to Abby, y'all. Listen to Abby. You guys, that's our show. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, live chat, for all of the great comments. We are catching up. We will be caught up shortly because we're rolling. Rolling. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye bye.